Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to a lovely, impromptu, and totally not organized Akira live development vlog. This is the fourth live development vlog that I did for Akira. The last one was a year ago. Was probably, I don't know, 7 months ago. 6 months. It seems like a lifetime ago. But yeah, I should do these more often. So I apologize for the delay. But hey, we're here. And a lot of people have already some questions in the chat, which is lovely. As usual, how I like to do the live streamings, I like to give you an overview of what I'm doing. Then I'm going to start coding and show you all the bad code that I do. And then I am going to stop sometimes, take a break, and answer and read all your comments and answer every single one in the chat. Because usually not many people are connected to this live streaming, so it's easy to answer to everyone. But welcome Jason, welcome Leandro, welcome Risto. Hi, yay, Akira, it's great. So a little bit of a different setup today because I'm on a new computer. If you didn't see it in my channel, I also have like the build vlog, whatever. You can check everything if you're interested, but I'm on a new computer, which because I needed a higher kernel, like a more updated kernel, and Elementary OS 6 is not released yet. It's not stable. It's still early access. I'm using Pop! OS. So in order to develop Akira, I have Akira on my laptop, where on my laptop, on my System 76 Gazelle, I installed Elementary OS 6, and I'm developing Akira here. So since I'm streaming, I'm doing this live streaming through my desktop PC, which has Pop! OS, I connected the HDMI output, the HDMI cable of my laptop to a capture card that it's going into the computer, and I'm grabbing that input or the output or the input of the capture card, the output of the HDMI computer, and I'm streaming it through OBS. So if I change screen, now you see, yay, this is my laptop. I'm on my laptop. So I'm streaming through my computer, which is my desktop, but I'm coding on my laptop. Which is great. So I can do whatever I want on these, and like my desktop is not taking care of computing anything. It's just totally focused on simply coding, which is what I wanted to do. Apologies for these little, I don't know if it's annoying, this little flag, like label above here, because I noticed, like, especially recently, a lot of my videos started to be like a lot of people downloaded my videos and re-uploaded on YouTube by cutting the intro or cutting the part of my face and saying like, this is a tutorial about WordPress made by them, without my intro and anything else. So I'm putting this little watermark. Hopefully it's not gonna be too annoying, but it's just there, so it's a little bit more obvious and it's harder to cut. I mean, you can still do it, but at least you're gonna chop away a little bit of screen. But yeah, anyway, let's start digging into Akira. Let me grab a sip of tea. How are you guys doing? What time is it at your place? Here it's 5 p.m. in Vancouver. Where are you guys located? Dino say hi from Brazil. Hello. Yeah, I guess the time zone is optimal for the West Coast, or like the American time zones. So North America, South America, Central America, we're all here. Probably, I don't know if some Europeans will be here. It's not optimal time zone for them. But anyway, let's dig into Akira. What we did recently, we pushed a lot of optimization and we worked a lot on the Goo Canvas. If you don't know what Goo Canvas is, it's basically the library that we're using to connect to Cairo. Cairo is the graphics library that handles all the graphics in everything, like even Inkscape is built on Cairo. The problem with Cairo is that if you implement it wrong, if you don't do it very, very well, it gets very slow and choppy and not great. So we are using the GUCanvas interface from GNOME, or GNOME, whatever you want to pronounce it, which is basically simple bindings for Vala. It's built in C and offers native Vala bindings in order to basically interface to Cairo without messing up with Cairo. So we can literally do a lot of things, a lot of crazy stuff, without affecting the overall performance of Akira, because GUCanvas is taking care to actually interfacing properly with Cairo. We don't need to worry too much about it. So yeah, it's great. And one of our core developers, Alberto, took over the maintenance of GUCanvas. So now we can update it and release new versions of GUCanvas that will be beneficial for everyone, but mostly for us. So the most recent commits that we pushed were mostly to improve the architecture. So we fixed a bunch of here. What was the use metadata? We fixed an issue where when the canvas, when you were saving an object outside the canvas, so an object had negative margins, then you were reopening the file, and the file that did the object was completely gone, was disappearing on the spot. So the thing that we implemented, we first enabled the ability to actually, let me build, and I'm going to show you. We enabled the ability to have negative margins. So now if we have these objects selected, now we are minus 64 pixels because it's related to the artboard. And also we improved the loading time. Before we were doing a bunch of crazy things, like we were loading the objects and putting them all on the canvas, and then we were reorganizing. Okay, these objects are in this artboard, these other objects are outside, these are here. So we were just creating everything and then moving them around. Instead, now on loading, we are already directly creating the object already inside the artboard if they are in the proper position with the proper sizing. The only thing that we're doing asynchronously after the loading is the generation or the implementation of the attributes of like color, background, and in the future other things like border radius and things. But because we don't want to, you notice how quickly it loaded these open file. Yes, we have like few shapes, but we don't want to slow down the loading file. We want to be snappy, so we don't want to, we were trying to not load everything all at once. So if we have many shapes and many large images, it's going to take a lot. No, we don't want to do that like that. So this is one of the things that we fixed, and it was super, super good. Another thing, as I said, we improved a couple of arbor interactions. Move the object between arbors and canvas, use the arrow key. So now if you move the objects between arbors, it switches like, oh, it's nothing very exciting. But yeah, we remove a lot of extra resources. We implemented some Arabic translation thanks to Ali Sameh Galal, which created the Arabic translation. And then we jumped version first, because before we were supporting Ubuntu 18.04, which had only Vala 0.42. Now we're supporting the lowest version is Ubuntu 20.04, which has Vala 0.48, which has a lot of benefits, a lot of great improvements. We're using Flatpak as our main distribution and gave a lot of cool things. Resources housekeeping, remove Flatpak, French translation, libarchive permission, remove support for Vala, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, a lot of good housekeeping. So yeah, we improved a bunch of the code, but now we need to do more because we have a little issue here. So if I show you the source code, mostly for, oh shit, a lot of comments here. Okay, let me take a break and read a lot of, oh, we got 20 people watching. Hey, hello everyone. Okay, so Jason asks, Alessandro, what do you think of the lack of a high-end apps in the Elementary OS ecosystem? I don't think any of that. I don't think it's specifically like it's actually correct. I see what you're saying, but for example, to do like a planner from Alain, I don't remember his name fully, but Alan, I call it Alan, even if it's incorrect. That planner, it's an amazing app, and it's very complicated. I think I consider it a very high-end app. All the screencasts and screenshots apps that are coming from Elementary OS, they work better than the default apps of GNOME. They did an amazing job as a developer there. And I think like Sequeler, the SQL client, it's not up there. It's not like super high end, but it's getting there. Like it has a lot of complexity and offers a lot of features that otherwise other apps wouldn't have. I don't see the lack. Like you probably say, hey, there are no good alternatives for Office, or as a UX design, Akira is not there yet, or there are no comparable things to GIMP or Inkscape and stuff like that. But I don't see that as a problem. First of all, the Elementary OS ecosystem open to developers, it's quite recent. It's like 2-3 years old. And the adoption time, it's usually slow. So I think with time, we're going to see more and more awesome apps with a lot of complexity and very high end. So I don't see that as a problem. We got someone from Poland, Warsaw, 2 in the morning, 10 p.m. from Paraguay. Oh, hey, oh my God. Alejandro says, I started to learn GTK and Vala with your tutorials. Now I'm studying the code for Go For It app. Amazing. Okay, yeah, I need to finally have this set up, which works. I need to go back to doing tutorials about Vala. Sorry about that. 3 a.m. in Finland. Risto, what are you doing awake? Hi from Greece, 3 a.m. A lot of European. You guys don't sleep, eh? 6 p.m. in Mexico. What's this about, Yannis? It's about Akira. 2 a.m. in Norway. Almost time to sleep. Yannis, what gloves are you wearing? Are they for ergonomics or cold? Yannis, these are both. They're warm. They have like copper inside. They say I found them on there's also the name Joint Comfort. It's got like Sierra. I don't know if you see that. There's an eye here. It's yellow. Sierra Joint Comfort. I bought them from the pharmacy close to my place. My hands get very cold, and also because I injured my hands when I was young, now I feel a little bit of pain. So these are also sort of like compression gloves, so they're very good. Leandro, ciao bambino. Ciao from Greece. Like a bunch of Italian words around here. Hello. Okay, let's get back into the coding part. You guys like hearing me drinking? Okay, so what we have here, we have a very simple problem, which is not very simple, but it's a silly problem and we need to fix. So the problem here is that whenever we create an object, of course, when you select an object, we update the transformation panel here, and we show all the information, like the location of the object, the sizing of the object, and you can, of course, control it from here, or you can control it from the canvas itself. So, for example, if I resize it, also the width and height value, they change, but also if I change the width and height value from the panel here, they change from the canvas. So this is very simple because a canvas object has width and height. They has these attributes. In this case, we're just looking at the width and height attributes. There are part of the canvas item itself. So in the transform panel here, if I open the transform panel, we have this called with bind, which is a native glib or glib. It's a G library binding. when we bind it, basically we can say bind the property, the currently selected item, check the value of the width, and the width, of course, is that width input that we have in the transfer panel, bind its value to the selected item with value. And when we do that, just round it up, because we just only support integers, but this is something if the size is locked. So for example, if we lock the size and we increase the width here, also the height should increase. So that's why we're doing that little calculation. But other than that, if we didn't have to do this calculation, the binding would have been something like this. This is a very simple vala binding, and we're telling here without even the curly brackets, we're telling here, as I said, bind the width of that input field to the selected item width. And because we are saying this binding as a bidirectional flag, it doesn't matter if we change the size of the width of the object from the canvas, so the shape changes, or we change it from the transfer panel, so the width. The two are bidirectionally binded, so they're not going to overlap each other, going to always be in sync. And this is great, and it works perfectly. The problem here is with the X and Y location. So the X and Y location, it's a little bit more complicated, because for whatever reason, the Goo canvas library that we're using in the canvas item doesn't come with an X and Y attribute. Doesn't come with it. Because by default, it comes with a matrix transformation. So basically the transformation coordinate of its own matrix that are the lock-in position of the X and Y and the X1, X0 and the rotation and the scale. Like the matrix, the full matrix is basically an object or an array that handles all those transformation. And the X and Y, they only come from, or they're applied to a rectangle or a circle or a shape or a line or whatever. The problem is that our selected items, they always have to be Goo canvas item. And the canvas item is basically the abstract class, like the base class, which all our other items are based from. The rectangle is based on the canvas item. The ellipse, the circle, the image, the text, they're all canvas items. So we're always handling a canvas item. And with that, because we do this, we don't need to check, are you resizing a rectangle or are you resizing a circle? Are you resizing a text or an image? Who cares? You're resizing a canvas item. So we always handle that. The problem, as I said, the canvas item doesn't come with X and Y. So we cannot do an easy two-way binding, bidirectional binding. And here comes the tricky part, because we had to do something very sketchy. So first of all, when the item is selected, we fetch the X and Y value. So the X value here, when an item is selected, we trigger the item coordinate just changed. We get the position from the selected item with this get position. I'm going to show you this get position affine transform get position. Look what we do here. We pass the item and okay, now extract the bounds manager. But if the item is inside an arbor, we need to remove the arbor size, and then we create an array and we return the array with X and Y directly in here. And we cannot, like the bounds manager doesn't, like changing the bounds manager doesn't change the item. The bounds manager is just a reference of the spacings. So whatever, on item and coordinates change, we get the position in this array and we say if the position X that we just got is different from the value that we currently have in our input field, we do something, because we don't want to constantly reapply the same value if the value didn't change. But because the X input field is connected to the X notify value here. Whenever we update the X, we trigger this method. And the X notify value, what it does, sets the position of the element and tells the canvas, hey, an item value changed, which creates an infinite loop because we're literally, we update the X value from the canvas. The canvas sends the signal to the transfer panel, the registers, applies the value to the X input field, and then sends the signal back to the canvas, which changes, so sends the signal back to the transfer panel, and so on. It goes on an infinite loop. That's why here we do these sketchy things that we say first, okay, let's disconnect the signal that triggers the value change. Then we update the value, and then we change the we trigger back we reapply back the signal. This doesn't happen, of course, if we change the value from the transfer panel, because from the transfer panel it just goes to the item, that's it. But if from the item comes the transformation, is just that fucking infinite loop, and it's just terrible. So the solution here is to create a state manager. And state manager, it's something very, very fancy, and it's actually very, very easy. And I created these issue here while I was sharing all the like limitations of our current implementation, and this guy J3s gave a great suggestion here. Basically, everything should be handled with a data down, actions up approach. So the app, or whatever thing, in our case, like a state manager, handles the state. So a state manager has the X and Y coordinates. Then the transfer panel, if something changes, sends the coordinate change to the state manager. And the state manager takes care of updating the X and Y. Same thing, the state manager takes care of telling the canvas that the shape should change. If the shape changes, so you're updating the shape in the canvas, we send directly the signal or an event to the state manager. We say, okay, X and Y have changed, and the state manager takes care of updating the transfer panel and the shape. We don't update the shape, then send the signal. No, we just send the signal and say, hey, the user is requesting the changes in these X and Y coordinates, what we should do. And this is what we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to create a state manager that handles X and Y, so we can do two-way bindings, and we can tell the transfer panel and the shapes to send the signals to the shape manager, to the state manager, and the state manager takes care of updating the various values. Does it make sense? I really hope so, because this is nice. It's not too complicated, but it is actually complicated. So what is it here? Let's close these. I already have a little git checkout DDUA data down up action. I called it right. It should be like action app DDAU, but DDUA sounds better. Okay, we're gonna do this. Here, nothing changed, compiling, perfect. Let's start with the transfer panel. Let's start with, let's start with the transfer panel by setting up some wiring for our thing. Or maybe let's start with the state manager. Yeah, we want to start with the state manager. Yeah, I think we should create the state manager. What do you guys think? Yeah, and there are a couple of questions. Let me check. Okay. So let's close all of these, the layout, the library, the state manager, because it's completely outside. We could potentially put it inside the library, but the state manager will handle, I envision the state manager growing a little bit, so we'll probably handle in the future also changes in the UI of other elements like the header bar or the transfer panel, the layers panel. So it's not directly tied to the library, it's not only affecting the canvas library, is affecting the entire UI, so should be outside. Yeah. Oh, Elaine. Hey, Alan. I call you Alan, Elaine. But welcome, welcome. I was saying that a user was complaining that Elementary OS, not complaining, was asking why Elementary OS doesn't have high-end application. I said Web Planner is a high-end application. It's one of the most high-end application I've ever used. It's amazing. So we're gonna create a folder here called State Manager. State managers, yeah. And inside we're gonna create a new file. In this case, I'm gonna call it position manager, coordinates manager. Let's call it coordinates manager.vala or position. What does it? Coordinates position. Coordinates manager. Let's call it that way. Okay. We're gonna copy the header from another file because it's always better to put the licensing, and it's 2021 and everything looks good. Okay, so we're gonna start creating an object class which we can use. So it's a public class called Akira state managers dash coordinates manager. And we're gonna use this sort of like namespace, if you know a little bit of PHP namespace convention, so we can reference always the location of that file based on the namespace, and also helps us not having duplicates or helping us with unique names. Object. Oh my god, I don't know how to type. The microphone is right above the keyboard, so sometimes I mistype these things. We need to inherit the window, so Akira window, and we want a weak connection here, or a weak variable. We can get, and we can define these from the construct. Oh my god. Construct. Okay. Then we can have, I think we will need the canvas as well, because yeah, we need to trigger some stuff in the canvas, but we don't need to set the canvas in the construct. We can inherit it directly from an object or something else. Oh my god, it's killing my throat. Oh, let me read a couple of questions. Alexis asks, I know this question is not about Akira, but is about Vala. Cannot connect to Oracle. I don't know. Vala has a GDA library, which it's the library that allows to connect to various databases and services around. You can check if there's support for Oracle databases from GDA. I'm not sure though. Oh, thank you. My wife just brought me a glass of water because I'm choking here. Daniel Gomez on, hey, what are you working on, dude? Okay. It is possible to use math in the input value for width and height. Example, width is 10 multiplied by 5 as a result of 50. Dramen, not yet, but we want to implement it. We want to do it, absolutely. So whenever you type something, if there's we will implement it in the future. Actually, I don't know if we already have an issue for it. We should. Issues. Math. If I write math, no, I don't think we have an issue, but they should be in the project list or in the where is the ship option close? There should be. I remember a user requested it already. You can check the issues. If it's not there, you can open an issue. But yeah, it's something that we want to absolutely implement it. Okay, Alexis is saying, I'm just trying to migrate old Oracle Forms app, but let's watch this. Okay, thank you, Alexis. Thank you for watching this. Yeah, this is way more interesting than working with Oracle, right? I'm sure it is. Okay, let's continue on. So now that we have this object class, we can define the two variable that we want to have the ability to bind, and the two variable will be, of course, x and y. So first of all, I'm going to define the private, and this is double x that starts with 0, and then the private double y that starts with 0. And the ability to have private and public, it's something that I didn't explain in the tutorial, but this is a great, it's something very similar to what you can do in PHP or .NET, if I'm not wrong. You can have a private variable that it's only stored in the object or in the class that you're using. And whenever the user requests the public version of the variable, you can grab the private from within the class itself and do some manipulation without allowing other parts of the application or the code or the user itself to do those manipulation on the fly directly on that variable. So you always have a reference of the original private variable that is there, cannot be touched, cannot be manipulated, and it's awesome. So yeah. So in this case, I'm going to show you the example. So in this case, if we want, we can have a publicly accessible x value that has two methods. First has the get method, like a getter and a setter. It's pretty standard. And the getter simply returns the private variable. So whenever the user, hey, I want the x, we return the x value. But if the code asks or demands to, let's update the x value because something changed, we can do something very, very good directly inside the setter without the necessity of creating a custom method or creating a helper method or a filter. We're all definitely directly doing something here. So we can say that if the value that it's coming directly, and this value variable comes directly from the setter method, we don't have to define it. If the value is identical to the private x value that we have, that the private variable, is just interrupt this, just not do anything, because if we update this, something is going to happen. We're going to trigger something. We don't want to trigger anything if the value didn't change, so we don't need to worry about it. Otherwise, we can update the private variable with the value, but the value, we want to fix the size. So we have an helper method called utils affine transform, should be fix size if I'm not wrong. So if I search for fixed size, yeah, utils affine transform, and we have these affine transform here. Class is just an object that is not initialized because has all static methods. We can call directly by reference its namespace. So we tap utils affine transform, and then we check the fixed size. We just do glib round math because we don't accept comma separated values, or we only accept integers because for now this is a UX design application. You don't want to half pixels. You don't want to handle 1.354789 pixels. It's not going to look good. I know there are some applications that allow that, but it's sketchy. Because also the web, like, it doesn't render properly half pixels. And here we can say that whenever these values actually updated, we can trigger a method like update selected items. And we want to update the selected items because the two-way bindings, we're going to have two-way bindings from the X input field to the coordinates manager X. So those are bidirectionally updated by themselves. There's no worry about it. The only thing is that if something changes, we need to update the selected items. And it's fine because the selected items, if we move the selected items, it's not going to update the X value directly. It's going to send an event to the state manager, the coordinates manager, and say, hey, update these values, and these values will be updated, and then the shape will change. Does it make sense? I think it makes sense. Okay. So let's do exactly the same for the Y. But why? Because it's a Y. And let's select everything. Boop, 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 boop. No fix. Okay. No. How do I? No, I don't know. Boop, boop, boop. Only. Boom. Y. Okay. Now we need to actually define the construct method, or the constructor, the object constructor of this class. So in this case is the public. We need to call it the same as the class itself, otherwise it's not going to work. And we are expecting the window coming from this initialization of the class. And since we need to store the window as a public weka week. Oh, that's why you guys were writing weka weka on the chat, because I missed that. I'm too stupid to understand this reference. I thought it was something like, I don't know, how the kids greet themselves to say, hey, weka weka. Can we do that? Can this be the official hello of Akira? Hey, weka, how's it going? Anyway, since the window is part of the construct, we can define it during the construction object. So we can say here, a object, define the window of this very class. Oh my God, I don't know how to type. Window has to be the window that is coming. So the window of this class, it's equal to the window that is coming from the initialization. Then during the constructor method, we can simply define the canvas. We don't want to also pass the canvas in the when we initialize this class. We can say that the canvas is equal to, if I'm not wrong, the canvas is inside window, main canvas, and canvas. Yeah, this is fucking main window. This is, we need to update the structure a little bit, but we're gonna deal with that in a bit. Okay, let's define these update selected items. So the update selected items is gonna basically be a private method, because we don't allow anyone, not even our code, to access that class, that method directly. Only it's accessed when one of our value changes, and it's a void method, and it's update selected items. Nothing has passed, nothing needs to be passed in this, because we already have everything that we want. And what we need to do here, we need to do a loop. So for each, we could simply, I don't know, a loop. This is the thing. Right now, Akira only supports single selected items at once. We don't support multi-selection. We're working on implementing the multi-selection. And now we are in this weird situation where if we're working on something else, we need to account for multi-selection even if we still don't have it. The joy of building something from scratch and not having a full plan, or just having whatever, volunteers and people that, hey, I can work on this during the weekend. So I'm gonna use a for each loop, because the for each makes sense, because so I can loop through all the selected items, and this should support out of the box multi-selection. So for each, and we are type hinting these for each model's canvas item, for each canvas item in the canvas, the selected, our canvas has a selected bound manager, which stores an array of objects, all the selected items. For each item in the selected items array, we can do something like that. If we can simply grab the set position from the affine transform, because that's what we are actually doing. So we can copy this, but we need to update a bunch of things here. So the set position that we had in our affine transform only passes the variation of the x and y. So for example, if you have an object at x position 100 pixels and you move it to 110, this x value is going to be 10. So it passes only the difference. It doesn't actually pass the 110. I think. Right? Maybe. Oh. Or maybe not. No, I don't think so. I think it passes everything. Yeah, I think it passes everything. Well, we'll give it a try. But anyway, we need to update this because our x value, x and y value will never be null because we always have it. So this is item rbird. We know that something changed, so we don't need to do this calculation, but we need to account for the differences. This is something very annoying that, I mean, for the artboard it's fine, but these, we want to do this. And then we get the matrix transformation, and we can remove these things because they don't reflect the truth anymore. Okay, and then we update the bound manager, but only since we are in a for each loop and we might be handling multiple elements. Maybe we're moving an element that is inside an artboard and an element that is outside an artboard. We're moving them together. We cannot return here, but we need to say continue. Hey, if this item as an artboard is not null, just do this calculation, update the relative position, and then continue. We don't need to do the Cairo transformation, but the items bound manager needs to be updated only for the external. Okay, and then at the end of the for each loop, we need to say to the canvas, whoa, canvas, heads up, event bus. We trigger event nuts, event bus. The item value has changed. We have these. We have these event. Oof. Sorry. We have this event that it does a bunch of things. So whenever it's called, update the selected items in the account manager or in the select bound manager, we selected items have changed, and basically this event is kind of like a jack of all trades event. Whenever we call this, the item value has changed, the entire UI said, oh wait, what changed? So if the something, I don't know, it was positioned in a different way or changed, whatever, and the sorting order or the transfer panel, the layers panel, they have to update themselves to reflect the new change, they're gonna get pinged, hey, something has changed, and they do their calculation. Okay, I don't have to do anything if nothing happened, but this is okay. So now we have this simple thing. Now we can hook these to our transfer panel, and we can do our two-way bindings. Does it make sense? But maybe we can keep working on this a little bit. Maybe? We need to do a couple of things here first. Oh, first of all, let's see if we have any mistake. So the thing that we have to do, we have to update our Mason build file because we have a new section. So we have here our state managers dash coordinates manager.vala. And we can try to build and see if we have any glaring mistake. Yeah, we have a missing state manager line 59. Of course, it did some typo here. 59. Oopsie, semicolon. Okay, affine transform doesn't exist because affine transform is not a word. Transform. Oh, God. I am tired. Yay, hey, compiled. Sweet. Okay. Then we can define something important, which is we need to set this whenever an item is selected. So when you select an item, we need to trigger this and telling it, hey, the item was selected, so update the X and Y, because we don't want to do the mistake that we're doing right now, that when we select an item, we pass the coordinates to the transfer panel. And if we do that, then the transfer panel has the coordinates, not our state manager. So yeah. We need to pass the coordinates to the state manager, and then the state manager will update the transfer panel and the shape. Otherwise, it's sketchy. We don't want to do that. So we need a private method, because we don't want to call these methods directly. We want to do everything through event space. So we can say something like that. So we can define a private method that doesn't return anything, so it returns void. Let's say on initialization of the state coordinates. That makes sense. We are passing the canvas item. We're going to pass the canvas item, which is called item. And in the canvas item, we're going to get the actual transformation matrix, like the actual position. And once again here, we can grab the get position from the affine transformation here. The thing is that I'm removing this from the affine transformation because I don't want to use the affine transformation anymore. The affine transformation, the affine transform object was kind of handy, but now it's turning into a little bit of a hustle to maintain, because since these are static methods that can be called anywhere from everywhere, from every single piece of our code, we started doing the mistake of whenever we update something, let's call this the static affine transform change. And then we're doing it from the canvas, and we're doing it from the transfer panel, and we're doing it from the layers panel, we're doing it from the header bar. So there's not one single source of truth, one single location where the transformation happened. Everything is just a static method that gets called from multiple sections. Instead, what I'm trying to implement is that whenever something changes, it triggers one event, and the event pings the state manager. The state manager updates the different values and then trickles down to the UI and tells the UI, hey, these things changed. So we have always the state manager. The objective here is having the state manager to have the coordinates manager, the sizing manager, the rotation manager, whatever. Just a manager that we know something changed in the object. Where do we look at? Just one file, not a million different files that they call. Because if we get position, if we do a global search, look how many times it's called these. It's called from the select bound manager one, and then it's called from the transfer panel, and then it's called from the window. And if we check the set position is called from the bound manager and the transfer panel. Like, it's not, we're calling this method twice. Actually, it's called 4 times from the select bound manager. We're calling this method so many times because we delegated the handling of the position to the object itself, but it shouldn't be. It's getting hard to handle this thing. So the position here, we can do something like that. A canvas item. So when an object is selected, we fetch the item X and the item Y. Makes sense. And then we say that get the coordinates. Let's write some comment first. Get the items coordinates. Update the coordinates if the item is inside an artboard. And then here we can do interrupt if no value has changed. So we can say simply that if the item X is identical to the current X that we have here, and the item Y is identical to the current Y that we have here, just return. Because we don't want to re-update our values and then create trickles again, trigger again the update selected items and update again. No, it's not useful. But if both of these are false or one of these is false, so at least one coordinate changed, we need to update the sheet. And if we update the sheet, we can simply do X equal, oh, I said it in Italian. X is equal to item X. Duplicate this line and select this, item Y. Does it make sense? And here we're gonna be extra picky, update the state manager's values. Oops, CP. Okay. I think that's pretty good right now. Let's write a little bit of comments. So here we can say something like that. So we need to explain this approach because to me, this approach makes sense. But maybe for other developers, like, why are we handling this shit? Why cannot we have simply a public things or whatever, something easier? So we can say that these attributes represent only the primary X and Y coordinates of the selected shapes. These are not the origin points of each selected shape, but only the top left most. Does it make sense? Top left most values? Values of the selection bounding box Is that English? Is that understandable anyway, shape or form? I guess it's this can be reviewed later. But yeah, for now it makes sense. So these is just to let another developer that is working on that. These are not the actual coordinates of the object. Because if the object is rotated, the coordinates are always the top left, even if the object is rotated. And let me show you what I mean. So let's update this if I didn't do another mistake. Okay, nice. So if I have an object, the x and y are these coordinates here, the top left. And so far, we're lucky that they match the actual x and y of the object. But if we rotate the object, the x and y is not anymore the top left corner of the object, but it's actually these bounding box. See, I'm holding Alt, and the Alt key, if you hold it, it shows the actual bounding box. And this is perfect for sizing because you don't want these x and y to tell you what is the position. You want these, like what is the x position, the y position. At least in UI, even if you in UX design, if you have an item rotated, you always reference the bounding box coordinates. And if we have multiple objects selected, that now we don't because we don't have that supported, but there was a pull request, initial selecting, mouse dragging, allow selecting, multi-selecting with shift. Yeah, look at that. Look at Alberto was working on that. Like if you hold shift, look at the bounding box. The bounding box now includes the two items all together. And so now the x and y top left, they represent the coordinates of the bounding box, not the coordinates of the item. Okay, so little digression, but I was just trying to explain. I'm just let me know if you have to shut up. But yeah, let me take a break and read some comments here. Gustavo, hey, just want to say that I loved your Vala and GTK tutorials, gave me an excellent start. You're very welcome. I need to continue that series. I'm so bad. Hi from Morocco. Hello, Caprim. It's 2:28 a.m. Your videos were very helpful for me. Thanks a lot. You're very welcome. Mina's brother, it's here. Got a headache. Whatevs. From Morocco too. Yay. Draman asks, not sure if there's anything like ESLint plugin that will help you to add semicolons. Not for VS Code. I don't think there's like a auto linting. There's a Valalint. We have Valalint here, for example. That it's a utility that you manually install and then simply tells you, hey, you're missing indentation, you're missing space, but doesn't automatically lint your file. So yeah, Vala is not that mainstream like JavaScript. It's not as mainstream as I wish it was to have all these tools. I think we'll get there sooner or later. Raudel says, another great discussion with Alecat. Still learning here, starting with how to create premium WordPress theme. Thank you, Rodol. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the series. AJ's WordPress series were really good. Yeah. I need to continue the Gutenberg series, but you know, with the pandemic and working, motivation, it's hard to find. So yeah, I'm trying. But yeah, so what I want to do now, I want to create a quick binding to show you how to do it, and then we're going to end this stream because it's been more than an hour. But now we have the state manager that whenever we select, we initialize the state coordinates, and now we can do something super cool in the transfer panel. So we can open the transfer panel. In the transfer panel, we can go all the way to the top. And here we can say, okay, the bindings, we can duplicate a couple of times. And this is X and this is Y. We can implement the X and Y bindings. So yeah, Draman, are you using Elementary S? Yes, I'm using, Elementary S6, which I'm not supposed to show you. I'm not doing any review. You're just seeing my code. But yeah, it's Elementary S6. It's daily. If you support them on GitHub, they give you a link to download the early daily release, like unstable. But it's more stable than a lot of other distributions that I have used. So it's pretty good to me. Yeah. So what are we gonna do in the transfer panel here? We need to do something. This is another thing that we will need to change in the future, but this is basically the same approach that we did with X and Y. We have a private method, or a private, in this case, is an object, a private canvas object, and then a public canvas object. And for now, this is one of other limitations. We're supporting one selected items per time, which we need to change. It's going to be a pain. But here, we can say... Ooh, sorry. Again, it's setting. We need to update something because we are disabling only if it has item, but we should disable it every time, even before we continue. So here we need to disable these thingies before. So basically we're doing like, if the selected item is identical to the currently selected item, don't do anything. If it's not, let's disconnect the previous item so we don't interfere with the current values, and then we disable, this method disables all the fields. So even if we update the fields because are disabled and disconnected, we don't update currently selected items that we're deselecting, or updating items that we haven't selected yet in a weird way. So we're trying to prevent this thing. And these thing here, this check is already happening here. If selected item is non-null, yeah, this is the same check, so we can use this boolean variable if it has items. Boom, bam. Okay, cleaning up a little bit this code, which now makes more sense, and we can, I like having, I like having an extra empty line after the closure, after a closure, after a condition or whatever. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay. Then we're defining, in the construct, we're basically building the UI here, and we're attaching everything. And then we have our events, and then we are on selected item changed. Okay, so on selected item changed, no, we don't do anything. Disconnect previous items. Perfect. So when we disconnect the previous items, here we are disconnecting the X value notify not anymore. We are disconnecting the unbind. We need to unbind these things. So we can delete this shit. And then we can unbind the X and unbind the Y bindings. On disable, we reset the values. That's perfect. And on enabling this thing, we don't need to update the items coordinate changed, because that's gonna be taken care from the state manager, I think. But one thing that we need to do, we need to set the value like we're doing here. We're setting the value of the selected item. We can set the X value, it's equal to the window. Oh, we didn't initialize that. Oh, let me do it super quickly. Let's get the window. So the window here, ooh, we need these. How do we do that? I think it's fairly easy to do. Grab the window. Yeah, we have plenty of examples here. So in the window, we need the position manager. Source window. Let's add it right after the dialog. So, and I'm gonna create, I'm gonna leave an empty row because this is a state manager. So it's not a utility or layout or anything. It's a state manager. So it might be, maybe we can have it below the services, but then we are, I don't know, we need to update this code a little bit, but let's do it later. Akira state managers, coordinates manager, chords manager. Let's call it like that. So now we can do these. In the construct, right after the main window is selected, because if you remember in the coordinates manager, when we construct this thing, we're tapping the main window to get the canvas. So we need to be sure to define the coordinates manager after the main window is defined. Otherwise, we're going to have a bit of a problem. So the chords manager is equal to, we need to initialize this, a new class. And like we're doing for everything else, this class is expecting the window. So we're passing this very own GTK application window or Akira window. So now that we have this chords manager here, we can tap it from the transfer panel. Right? Right? I think so. What do we have to do here? So the X value is equal to the window position. No, it's chords manager. Chords manager X. Because, as I said, whenever something changes, we don't update the transfer panel, but we update the state manager. So from the state manager, we will always have the correct X and Y positioning without the necessity of doing any calculation. And then because we're doing the ratio bindings and blah, blah, here we can do an X bind that we defined before. The X bind is going to be equal to the X value binding the property, and this is going to be super sweet. So we're going to bind the value of the X to the selected, to the window position, chords manager X value. And this connection is going to be synced upon creation and bidirectional. Whew, look at that. So good. Does it make sense what I'm doing? Same thing here. I'm going to bind the Y. Done. Not that easy. Yes, try this. Couple of questions. Eric, OTP, should I bother moving from Ubuntu to Pop! OS or something similar? Depends on you. It's pretty similar. Pop! OS has some nice improvement, like nice refinement on the hardware support. It comes with updated NVIDIA graphics library if you want to just grab it directly from the ISO image. But it really depends on you. It's not going to like change your life drastically. It's based on Ubuntu, so you're going to have exactly the same packages, exactly the same thing. The shell is a little bit different, but I don't know. It's really up to you and what you need. I use Pop! OS because it was it comes with better support for AMD graphics, if I'm not wrong. I might be wrong. And also has a better integration on Flatpak. I don't use snaps, I use Flatpak, and Pop! OS comes with Flatpak out of the box installed, so it was way easier. So yeah. Sirwan, hi guys, what's going on? Is Akira a Sketch clone? It's trying to be Sketch. I'm trying to create Akira for Linux to be exactly like Sketch for macOS. Aren't SVG editors primitive enough to be on the browser? It would be great if people develop a bitmap editor instead, like make GIMP better. But why, Sir One? As Ali says, I think that it'd be easier to work with language server. Blah, blah, blah. Why? So there are a lot of web solutions for like to edit SVGs. Absolutely. But the problem is here is that UX designers, they cannot just use SVGs because SVGs are limited. This very simple things that SVGs don't have native support for the border inside, outside, or center border. It's not doable. The fact that SVGs don't support radial cone gradients or radial more advanced radial gradients, like SVGs, they're great, but they have a lot of limitations because they have to be simple, because they have to be able to be rendered by the browser. UX designers in Sketch or Figma or other things, yes, you can export your layout from those software in SVGs, but all the complicated things that you can do in those tools, you cannot do them natively in SVGs. The simple thing in Sketch, you can have one item with multiple background colors. If you want to test, like you can have the background image and then a color on top and then a pattern on top and then another color gradient on top. All these things, the tool needs to do this. Like the SVGs by itself cannot support this. And also, never rely 100% on the browser. I know now computers are fast. We have like 300,000 different cores and a billion gigabytes of RAM or whatever. But not everyone has access to these high-end parts, our computers. A lot of people are on laptops with 8 gigs of RAM or a dual core or a quad core, and that's it. So already, if you have like 20 different Chrome tabs open with different programs running on those tabs, everything is browser based and it's just destroying your computer. It cannot handle it. So it's bad to only rely on browser based, JavaScript based things or something like that. A native application, it's faster than Electron application or a browser-based application. That's why Sketch, it's a native macOS application because it uses native code and uses the native libraries, and it's fast as hell. And that's why it was the leading industry standard for a lot before Figma came in and implemented like multi-platform support and browser support. Yes, it's convenient, but doesn't mean it's better. Yeah. Ali says, I think that it will be easier to work with language server like Vala language server. Yeah, I tried to install it on VS Code. I couldn't. I really hope Vala language server will be like natively supported by VS Code with an extension and I can install it and that's it. Most of the times you have to configure a lot of things, but yeah. Sketchy, yeah. Okay. So now we have the bindings. On item, coordinates changed. These, we don't need to use these anymore. Where is this used? Wow. We don't need to use these. We don't need to use these. And we don't need to use these. X notify value, Y notify value. Oh my God, I love deleting code. So do we have X notify value? No. X, Y notify. Oh yes, we don't have anything of that sort, which is great. We're cleaning up the code so well. Okay, so we did this binding. Let's see if it works, shall we? I don't think it's gonna work. Yeah, this is a half-baked implementation. Okay, yeah, missing in transfer panel 244. 244, man. Oh, yeah, in the bindings, I forgot to put semicolon. Yeah, linter here might be helpful. On init state coordinates. Oh, yeah, we missed. We're not passing the value. Yeah. Oh, Danny. Hello, Danny. Remove RF is faster. Yes. It changes everything. So one thing that we need to do in order to make this happen is on init state core. So when we create a new object, we select a new object, we need to trigger this initialization of the state coordinates. Otherwise, this won't work because reasons. Because we don't have any coordinates to start with, right? So let's do it from the canvas. I'm tired. I think I'm gonna take a break now. It's been a lot. It's getting late, but we're getting there. So does it make sense as an implementation? So the thing that we're missing to do basically is that whenever we select an object, we need to call these, and this is gonna happen through an event. We're going to trigger an event, and the event we're going to be listened as a signal. We're going to receive the signal and set up the X and Y. The other thing that is missing is, that's it, I think. I think that's it. We need to do that from the canvas or the items manager. The other thing that, of course, we need to do is we need to strip away all the things that we were doing before. Setting the initial coordinates, just messing things up left and right. Yeah. Oh, we need to also, yeah, no, forgot something. When we need to create an event that sends the updated coordinates when we move the object from the canvas, because now we have the two-way bindings for the transfer panel. So whenever we change something to the transfer panel, the values in the state manager will be changed, but we need to say when we change something in the shape coordinates, we need to update the state manager. So the other bind that we cannot have, so we need to have an event that triggers that update, something that we need to do. I'm gonna do it later because now I'm tired. Oh yeah, oh wow, we got almost 30 people here looking at my silly code. So I think these live streaming went well. I was surprised that I was able to capture the HDMI output from my laptop, and this works nicely. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching this live streaming. If you want, you can support the project. You can go on the GitHub repository, sharing the project. Follow us on the social media. You can search for Akira UX. We're on Twitter. We are on Fostodon. Just go on GitHub and there's everything there. If you want to support the project, also, if you have the capacity, you can support it on Patreon, on GitHub support, or Liberapay, whatever. If you cannot, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Just share it, give it a thumbs up, or subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, because I do a lot of live streaming coding about JavaScript and Akira and blah 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 blah, so like that. Draman, next time use YouTube Premiere. Oh, so record the video before and then share it on YouTube Premiere. I never use it. I don't like it that much, but yeah, I can try. Ali says Akira will make Linux better, not only for developers but designers. Great work. Thank you. Oh yeah, Danny, Akira is on Matrix too. If you want to chat on Matrix, Danny is one of the moderators there. Great guy. If you can give him money, just throw some money at Danny. And you can, sometimes I browse around Matrix and I answer some questions as well. We have a Discord channel that you can access through Patreon. Oh my God, so many access points. But yeah, I think that's, it's so tired. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And until the next one, as usual, happy coding. Bye.